Hey guys, here's a portion of the Brandon McCaskill podcast. You can become a member on our Patreon page to support what it is that we're doing here. Just click the link above this video and get yourself set up. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, and forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
What are some of the general challenges that you guys are facing that the public doesn't see?
Well, I think I'll open by saying, let's start with what the perception of a police officer is and what a police officer does. And I think when we say police officers, we often think naturally of an officer driving in a cruiser, and that's where the mind goes. Like even in my role as a police chief, if I tell someone that's what I do, some people think that's my job, is driving around instead of emailing relentlessly, as I tend to do now. So within that building is dozens and dozens of specialized positions. We have civilian support staff. We have all the administrative functions of a regular organization. We have training requirements. We have admin support, human resources, finance. We have professional standards for internal investigations. We have our criminal investigators. We have our community support staff. There's all kinds of things happening within that building. It truly is an ecosystem of an organization, and policing runs 24/7. We don't get an opportunity to close the doors and say, we'll see you tomorrow, next business day. It's constantly running. So when you think about the people in the building, there's all those different folks doing all those different jobs. Then we've got to keep all their support elements in place. So you're talking technology and vehicles and equipment and even the building itself. Like, the washrooms have to function. If you're going to change a space, you have to find an alternate space because of that relentless 24/7 demand. So I think if we start with kind of framing up what a police agency is, it never sleeps. It's always working, and there's a lot of people doing a lot of different jobs inside that building, and it's impressive to see. But to your earlier point, not what the public sees driving by or would naturally assume right out of the gates.
Yeah, it seems the public is really only becomes aware when something controversial happens in the news, and that seems to be. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like this is just coming from my perception. But like I credit you guys at the station for being really thorough in presenting the information you want the public to see. But I think there's this wall every time you guys speak, and I think the wall is the media. And portions of it gets through that wall and their own narrative spins for how they want people to view it. And this is part of why I wanted you guys here. So,
all we ever get is like a brief soundbite on something. We don't get anything else.
We've modernized our organization on the communication side too, where we are using platforms that we haven't used in the past to be able to get the total message out. So when we butt up against that wall that you're referring to, there are other avenues that people can see our content essentially. Whether that be through Facebook or on X or anything else, or our media releases, which we have increased significantly over the last couple of years to get the information out of what's happening within the city.
And that's why I love this long form type of podcast, because you get to actually see the faces behind the headlines that we read about, and I kind of want to get to know you guys because you're real human beings. Police officers are real human beings. I think people forget that. You guys have families, and I know you're new to the community as of it's 2022, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
You came here, and I did a little bit of digging on you. You were from Halton, Ontario, is that correct?
Yes.
So, and you have family, and one of the notes that I had seen that you had shared with one of my guys is that you guys are always at like the brunt of public criticism. And I've gotten a little taste of what that feels like, just being online and having an opinion these days. And when it even affects me a little bit, it affects my wife, it affects my kids. So I want to kind of, what is that like being a family man, having all these criticisms, like, is that hard for your family to watch you go through stuff like that?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say, like, we try to you can't keep things separate. Like, there's always an impact. And I think, yes, I'm not from here, and I understand that I'll never be from here for at least 40 years, I think, before I get my status there.
Yeah.
So that's okay. But my whole family has moved. So I'm came here sight unseen. I came into an unknown job. I was, didn't really know what I was walking into. So, but it's been, from my perspective, it's been a great opportunity here. We've got great people, and bringing my family over actually helps support me in the role that I do. All my kids will have graduated through Northern High School and done their different things. They have a little challenge being, the chief's kid, or if people find out, and there's some of that, which is it's expected. That's okay. But it's they read the newspapers, they see the cover of the different print that First Monday, whatever it happens to be, like it's out there. They're okay with it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, do you guys get, because you're out of uniform now, do you guys get noticed in the city quite often? Like when you're off the clock?
I would say my experience, there's no secrets in Sarnia. Is that?
Yeah. Well, and I'm the complete opposite, where I'm born and raised here. Yeah. Essentially, I've never left. And just to go back to your point about the challenges with the family and the criticism that comes along with it, is what the family gets, though, is the entirety of the story. Yeah. Where if there is some criticism out there, they can simply ask, and we're open books, essentially, and we'll give the information to anybody about what the truth of those situations are. And sometimes there's difficult conversations, and my family doesn't always agree with the way that we police. Yeah. And I've got some great examples of that. And one, I'll just go on a little bit of a tangent here, is that years ago, my sister was in the parking lot of Canadian Tire, and she watched an arrest take place. And she called me, and she was critical of the officer. And I said, well, how much did you see? And she told me. And then I said, well, you missed the part in the store where that individual pulled a knife on somebody and threatened them. Right. And then she's like, oh, okay. But that's the kind of stuff that she's privy to.
Context, right? Yeah.
Immediately. And then, she starts to understand that kind of stuff. And, the immediate reaction that people have is sometimes, a little bit over the top until they get all of the information. And that's why it's important for us to have these kind of conversations and to be open about what we're doing.
Yeah. Policing's it's a funny profession, because it's one of those ones where, lots of TV coverage. Everyone assumes how. Like, I often make the joke: imagine if we treated healthcare like we did policing. Like,
I always say that it's the most terrible customer service job on the planet, because you just deal with the worst possible people at their absolute worst at all times. And I mean, speaking of situations like that, the crime severity index here has gone up last year for violent crime and stuff like that. You've made comments as well about violent crime being on the increase. What is going on with that?
So if you go behind the scenes there a little bit, the violent crime index is calculated by Stats Canada. It's based on a number of different things. So it's based on your different charges that you lay. It's based on judicial decisions in terms of sentencing, and they've got an algorithm that kind of mashes everything together and gives you a number. So last year we had a couple of murders, and in a smaller community that will really tend to skew numbers. And you saw that historically in the past when there was multiple homicides, the violent crime index went up. The other aspect of that is policing is also a lot like fishing. The more you go out there and cast the line, the more fish you catch, the more the numbers go up. So you're seeing a couple of different things there with that number. So yes, it's concerning. We want to watch that, but you're also seeing record high clearance rates across the board, like significant improvements in our organization for the amount of crimes we solve. And you're seeing a lot of things being increased in terms of the number of arrests and the number of charges laid over the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 years. And Mike can kind of speak to it's changed a lot. The workload has adjusted over time.
It's a change in the philosophy of how the organization runs, and that's always dictated by the leader. So as you change leaders, the philosophy of it changes, which then requires the rank and file to do the job and go down the direction that we want to go. And like just to the chief's point about the increase in arrests and stuff like that, is because we're taking a hard look at recidivism, and we hold people accountable who commit crimes in the city of Sarnia. And so that's going to be reflective in those numbers in the crime severity index. Instead of, like there's an old saying in policing called FIDO, and I won't give you how that plays out. Yeah. But we encourage our officers when they see something to act on it, and that they're going to be supported in the decisions that they make, and not to skew the numbers in such a way where it doesn't look like we're as busy.
Yeah.
Like just react to what you see,
Right.
do proper investigations, lay appropriate charges, and when you do that, it leads to higher numbers.
Right.
One of the things I also wanted to talk to you guys about I lived in Chatham, Ontario for a number of years. And just your response with the Rainbow Park and everything else that happened with that, their city looks entirely different to ours. And as far as like your enforcement blitz to combat social disorder and stuff like that, you guys are making like a significant more impact than what I've seen in that city, because I go there every couple of weeks or so, right? What's the difference between us and them? Like, you guys are clearly doing something different and something clearly better. Like,
Well, I always hate to compare our friends in policing because everyone has a different circumstance they work with. But I can say for us, and Mike can jump in here anytime, our approach is there's two parallel paths. There's the path of helping the individual that has social needs or struggling with addiction or whatever that happens to be. And then there's the crimes, because crimes victimize residents, they victimize businesses. So there's two things that have to be dealt with at any particular incident. Our focus is generally the crime because that's what we're equipped to do. However, we're also a good social agency partner in the sense that we also recognize that we don't have to just do that. As a police service, we can arrest an offender, hold them accountable for the criminal activity, but still recognize their humanity and say, hey, here's some referral services, here's some different things, places you can reach out to. Because if we can help that person and prevent the crimes, that is also a win. So any opportunity we have to do that, we do. So when you're seeing the blitzes, you're seeing us trying to service both sides of the community coin, so to speak. The residents that are dealing with the frustration and the seeing things they shouldn't see. And then also we've got some high needs individuals, high risk individuals that might also need some support, but the one doesn't excuse the other, if that makes sense.
that's something I say all the time.
Well, you talked a little bit about the two paths there, and the one path that he avoided was that the social support. So we have a team dedicated to ensuring that individuals have access to the help that they need. And so that impact team was monumental in the success that was Rainbow Park, because they were in there every single day offering the services. And why we were able to resolve that was due to their work to say, hey, listen, there's shelter here, there's addiction services here, this is where you can go. You're clearly not comfortable here. Here are your options. And so in conjunction with bylaw, working extremely closely with them, we were able to get the people out of the park into services in areas that they got help. We didn't just displace them. We just didn't go in there and clear it out. For the police involvement there, it wasn't through the enforcement side of things that we were able to have that success. It was through the support side of it. And that sometimes gets lost, but that was a team that we built a couple of years ago, recognizing that this was going to be an issue in advance, and they were already on the ground developing those relationships. Like these officers, great. Like they would take people, like if the help was in St. Thomas, my family's there, just for instance, I'm just making this up, the city, but we'll take you there. We'll get you the help. And we've had numerous success stories of doing that to the people that we would have seen walking around this community struggling with homelessness, that we've got them into places. But that it was a proactive effort. The enforcement is often a reactive when somebody calls and says, this is the issue, this is what happened, and we need to investigate crimes and lay charges. But there's also the proactive side of policing, not just on the enforcement side, but the help side.
And we're talking tens of thousands of interactions a year.
Right.
So when we see, there's always those police incidents that pop up in the news, and they're high profile. We've got one right now with a officer had to deal with someone within the cells and the car wash thing. And so there's those happen. Yeah. We deal with those, but every day there's probably 100 other calls that we don't talk about. And when we talk about even police use of force, tens of thousands of interactions where everything is resolved successfully, and then some force has to be applied.
Right.
So we tend to be an agency of the exceptions where they get debated a lot in the public, but there's a lot of work being done by every individual officer and our civilian support staff quietly under the surface every day relentlessly. And unfortunately, those don't get the airtime that some of the other fancier ones tend to do.
Right.
That seems to be from some of your critics in the media in locally anyway, that they accuse you guys of being very one-dimensional. But I think it's very clear you guys are multi-dimensional, obviously. Like, you do much more than just cuff people and throw them in the slammer.
Depends on the critic, I think, because speaking of looking into a mirror and accusing us of being one-dimensional.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I kind of want to go back because you came to Sarnia in 2022. The Sarnia Police Services. I want to know what condition it was when you got here. Maybe you can speak to the history because you've been here, and like where you would like to be in the future. Like what's the goal we're trying to reach towards at the city level? So,
well, just a little bit of the background. So I'll
Yeah.
tell you my expectations. There was no fine print.
Yeah.
It was, I arrived at a police service that I'd never worked at before, where I knew not a soul, where both the chief and the deputy at that time had left. They weren't even working when I arrived. We didn't have a deputy there, and you'll remember back 2022 and before that, there was a lot of controversy that the Sarnia police had been through.
Yeah.
I think the members were exhausted from that time. So it was I would say it's a little bit awkward coming in at that particular moment. Plus, I'm an outsider, and that's like not always popular, but that's it was. I would say it's a tough go. Now, Mike can. I'll let Mike speak to it because really he was kind of the witness. I was just in a whirlwind. I'm trying to learn what's the community, what are the priorities, who are the players.
Yeah.
You know, we did the town halls, we did a lot of that public outreach at that time.
Right.
Partly because it was part of the business planning, but for me, it was really educational to meet people and to hear what the community concerns were. And then we had to look at, okay, where are we going with this organization? And I can't do anything by myself. I need people like Mike and our teams to be able to execute the work and build the plan. So, but Mike was front row seats to the.
Because I don't know if this is popular, but what I've read online is that I think a lot of people figured you were the solution to all that controversy, like kind of wiping the slate clean. So is there truth behind that? Like what's going on?
Yeah, I think that there is.
Yeah.
It gives the organization a fresh look
Yeah.
because I've been there for 21 years.
Right.
There really wasn't a lot of change or modernization within the organization. It was very like a regimented way of operating and doing business. And I think that going outside the organization every now and again is important so that you can see that things can be done differently. And I talk about modernization a lot when I talk about the last few years, and a bit of a whirlwind when the chief came to town, but he pushed forward a lot of things that we knew were out there in policing. But we would have constables transfer in from larger services, whether they're coming home or coming to a smaller town, just to change a pace. And they would talk a lot about technology that's out there, going like, I can't believe you guys don't have this or that or some other things. And then when the chief shows up, definitely brings all of that experience and knowledge and knowing what the capabilities of a modern police organization are and driving us in that direction.
Right.
But one thing that we always say, and you'll hear it from anybody that you talk to, is there's two things that police officers hate. It's change and the way things are. And so there's really no winning in this situation, but certainly it was a necessity to modernize our organization, become innovative, and become a leader within our industry. And that's what we've done the last few years. Has it been difficult? Absolutely, because it's different.
Yeah.
But we've got an exceptional group of people that work there who embrace the change. And we're heading in a positive direction, but very different.
Yeah.
I think it's important to frame change for what it is. It's not change for the sake of change. It's not, hey, here's a shiny thing that we should have. It's like, what are we expected to do under the legislation and within the community? What does the community want to see from us?
Yeah.
How do we make officers efficient? How do we keep our people well-trained, well-equipped? How do we keep them well?
Yeah.
And these are some of the components. And I'll give you just a simple example is the taser. The taser is out there. You've seen it in the news a little bit here and there. But when I arrived, it was not deployed to all of the front line. I would say
Bet less than 50% probably.
So from a chief perspective, we're in a busy city with a high violent crime rate. Our officers are dealing with a lot of it's a tough city to police. They do a great job, but here's half of them aren't equipped with a less lethal option that could prevent someone from having to use lethal force.
Right.
So it's those types of things where it's, as the new chief, I'm like, I have to sleep at night, and
Yeah.
I have to be able to make sure that we've got that. So with Mike and some of the other team members, we've worked, and I want to say it's not, a lot of these issues aren't new. They were present for a long time, and I think we've just had the opportunity as the chief to be able to push things forward. Sometimes you need some top-down decision making to enable some of those pieces, but like a lot of that was looked for previously to my arrival.
We were comfortable. We
Yeah.
accepted the way things were, believing that this is the way it is. And if you don't reach out, bring somebody in, or if you yourself don't travel around to see other ways to do things, you're going to be stalled.
Right.
And the chief just alluded to a little bit there, talking about the wellness of the individuals. And that's one thing that he took a very strong look at immediately off the bat. Listen to, like, when we did our internal town halls, it, like, we all knew the problems, but it gave us a chance to say, hey, listen, like, we've got some serious deficiencies here that cause me personally a lot of anxiety. Like the staff sergeant who is responsible for the lockup at the facility there needs to ensure that the people that come into our custody are cared for appropriately. We still don't have adequate facilities to care for these people properly.
Right.
And when we got the opportunity to say, listen, help us, we made some significant changes to our cell block where, you're not supposed to have ligature points. We have bars on our cells because they are from the 80s. And that was the common thing then. It's not the common thing anymore.
Right.
So we installed plexiglass on there so that the access to the bars is taken away. The camera system was inadequate. We fixed that. The lighting in the cell block was inadequate. We fixed that. And right off the bat, the chief pushed very hard for a budget increase to ensure that we had staffing appropriate to care for those individuals. And once we did stuff like that, then the staff sergeants and the sergeants and the officers working there were like, wow, thanks very much for hearing and listening to me. We've been talking about these issues, but just had to live with them.
Right.
So it was changes like that and addressing the wellness of the officers and the civilians that work there to ensure that this workplace was a safe, comfortable environment for them.